what do you view your role as a mother to be? Is it to get it perfect and tell your kid everything and fix it? Or is it to be a guide that's walking alongside them through most of these processes, right? So yeah, there are times where you do need to tell them and show them, but there are times you mostly have to just kind of let them figure things out. Because if not, your identity gets tied into that version of mothering. Of like, I'm the fixer, I'm the one that they need to do this, to do that. And when they're an adult and you can no longer do that, you are shattered, or you become either resentful or just that parent that now your kid don't want to talk to you because they're not letting me be a grown-up.
I will drink to that.
I'm gonna need to go see what I can put in my mug over here, because you're not gonna be the only one.
Dear Mama, what if I told you there's no such thing as snapping back after giving birth, only expanding into? What if I told you the you you're trying to get back to is not in your past, but ahead of you? What if I asked you to imagine Black motherhood without suffering? Could you do it? Have we made suffering a rite of passage in Black motherhood? Have we shrouded Black motherhood in self-sacrifice as opposed to sacred sacrifice? These are the questions we explore in this episode about matrescence. Coined by anthropologist and reproductive psychologist Dana Raphael in the 1970s, matrescence is the process of becoming a mother, including the physical, psychological, and emotional changes that occur during pregnancy, birth, and the postnatal period. Listen, this episode drove us, well, not all of us, Thea, to drink. So we're glad to have one of our faves, Stepha LaFond of Unlearning Motherhood, riding shotgun with us to provide context to all the things we know and feel about transitioning to and in motherhood, but didn't have the language for. So before we jump into this episode, thanks for coming inside the Black Woman Magic Room. If you're a new listener, welcome to the mothership. If you're a newbie or an OG, share this episode with at least one person and be sure to check out our merch of the month, the Black Mama Magic card deck curated by us, them Black Mamas. You can find that link, info about our guest, Stepha LaFond of Unlearning Motherhood, and a full transcript of this episode in our show notes on our website at demblackmamas.com. That's DEM blackmamas.com. Now, let's get free, y'all, and jump into episode 49 of
Damn Black Mamas.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to The Ride. It's the greatest podcast on earth, and you're on the mothership inside the Black Mama Magic Room. I am Crystal Tennille Irby, mother of 4.
I am Thea Moyer, mother of 3.
She was buying some products. That's why she...
And I am Nikisha Killings, mother of 4, who is actually buying product.
I am trying to find something for Nikisha. That's all.
Damn it. The link is gone.
They are literally buying products.
I'm trying to.
We ready. I'm here. I'm in the space.
Okay.
Oh, this is it. This is it.
Boom.
I'm sorry. I'm focused.
Let me know.
This better be the best blush ever.
We ready?
Because I done spent a grip today.
It's gonna look good on you.
I hope so. And on the next recording, I want to see it. I hope it is since you purchased it.
Are we still buying Fenty Pro Filter? Have y'all moved on? We're not doing Fenty? I mean, because I'm still there from.
I don't use the Pro Filter, but I use the tinted moisturizer, and that is everything for me.
I still don't have the type of coverage that most people have. When I'm looking back at me, I'm like, why are my blemishes still showing through? But I'm probably not doing.
Even with the Pro Filter?
Do you have the concealer
I don't
too?
use it often. Is that what I need? I need to pair them up.
For the blemishes, you want to put the concealer first and then put the Pro Filter.
Well, Rihanna, you are more than welcome to come on here and talk about these products, girl. We welcome you. Come on,
let me tell you something.
In the Black
Come
Woman
on here,
Magic
girl.
Room.
I believe if Rihanna knew we existed, she would 100% say yes.
You think Rihanna doesn't know we exist? I don't
She's a
believe
black
that.
mama.
No, because that don't make sense. If she knew we existed, she'd be on the podcast.
I think she knows. She just hasn't had time. She's coming on. Beyonce's coming on. Rihanna's
Everybody.
coming on.
Yeah, I feel like you are trolling me a little bit because this says for medium deep to deep skin tones. Why would you send me a shade for medium deep to deep skin tones?
But it depends on how you use it. That's the good thing about Fenty. You can use it as a blush. That's not what it's actually for. But I use it as a blush.
I just like to remind people that Thea also has like California skin, so you get that good undertone because it's like sunny all the
I don't have
time.
that
I
situation.
don't know much about
No,
undertones.
really. And like in the South, because of white supremacy, like shit, the sun changes here.
Oh.
So it's different. It's not the same.
White supremacy does change the
It
sun,
does.
bitch. It does change the sun.
It does.
Okay, maybe go in and try it on first.
Yeah.
I'm looking like Homie the Clown.
Homie the
As I'm
Clown.
trying it on right now. It look a hot mess.
It ain't like you gonna pile it on either. You like pop, pop, pop. That's it, like poop, poop, poop. You don't be like bah, bah, bah. You just be like pop, 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 and then you like blend.
I'm gonna try it. Try it.
Pop, pop,
Just
pop.
see it don't steer me wrong. I'm gonna try it.
Bah, bah. Don't be heavy-handed. Pop, pop, pop.
Let me tell y'all something. If you're not watching on YouTube, you're missing it. You are missing it.
Because a lot of it is visuals.
I'm gonna be offending whole ethnic groups. Looking like I got on tribal war paint, and I'm gonna say, yeah,
Be mad at the white oppressors.
it's a colonized blood.
That
It
are
is a
affecting your
colonized
son.
blood, and I don't appreciate it.
You got a big lawn. Don't you have like a forest in
She
your
does.
front yard? You
But
don't go
the
play?
sun is different in red states. I keep telling you that.
That's so true. Crystal theories.
Please put complexion on the prayer list.
Put your complexion on the. So you
I
can
will
tell
not
this
take
is the
this.
Black Mama Magic. I mean, this is girl, what is the name of the damn podcast? You can tell that it's a Dear Black Mama's podcast because we started off down a rabbit hole, but we're back. We're back.
We're back.
This means we've come up from the rabbit hole.
This is like my 5th beverage this whole podcast. I'm hydrated as fuck.
And she's also a little drunk because she had some tequila because we've already recorded the
did.
mac and
Because of
cheese.
Stefa.
And she needed to drink some tequila. So we are going to jump in with our responsive reading. Then we will have our mac and cheese, which is, oh my God.
Very cheesy.
Oh my God.
It made my tummy hurt a little bit.
It's so cheesy. It's so, and by cheesy, we mean good. It's so cheesy.
It made my tummy hurt a little
It's
bit.
so good.
Got a
It's
little
so good.
uncomfortable up in here multiple times.
It got a little
Little
tight. Okay, are we ready? Are we ready for the responsive reading?
Yeah.
Do we have a card number we want to pick, or do y'all just want me to see what the answer is?
Let's see what flips out. Let's see what falls out.
Okay, here we go. Oh, when you said child, I thought she was going to say ass getting fixed. I hear everything in Beyonce lyrics.
I mean, it's happening, so I could have said that because I ain't doing nothing to stop it at this point.
Oh,
Here we go. Here we go.
we are in alignment.
It's going to be good. I'm ready. My children are my teachers. That does lead really well into the episode.
So this is card 39. 9 plus 3 is 12.
And then 1 plus 2 is 3.
What does 3 stand for? Numbers person?
3 is completion in some areas because the Trinity and different things in 3. So 3 is about completion circling up.
Dear Mama, whether your babies are 3 or 30, they are constantly teaching you. At times, they are a mirror reflecting the shiny, cracked, or broken pieces of you. Other times, they are lenses through which you can see your own opportunities for growth. Always, they are tools of the universe to help you reach your highest self. What if you faced each day with the intention to learn from your children? How might you experience each other differently?
Which one of us wrote that? Sometimes I can't tell who wrote what.
Crystal, maybe?
I have no idea. But I will say, just listen to the mac and cheese. I mean,
Perfect. It's perfect.
it's perfect for the mac and cheese. It's so good. That's so good. All right. So if you are not following us, which you should be following us, I can't even understand why you
We
wouldn't
can't
be following
imagine.
us.
We can't
But
imagine.
you can follow us on all social media platforms at Dim Black Mamas Podcast and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You get all of the... See, you can't see that. You can't see what I'm doing
All
because
the
you're not
magic.
on the
All the
YouTube channel. You can be subscribed on an audio platform and on our YouTube channel. as well. So we are transitioning to our mac and cheese segment, and we are excited to have, I mean, you are a guest, but you like the homie, you know?
Yes.
Don't say homie anymore.
People still say it.
People say homie. Yeah, you're like the homie. But we're so happy to have you here. And Stepha LaFond of Unlearning Motherhood is here today to talk about, in essence, liberation in motherhood. But before we jump in, we're going to do our favorite thing, which is to read the bios of Black women. Okay. Call this the roses portion of our show. Stepha is a life coach, mentor, and speaker, dedicated to helping moms navigate the space between who they were and who they're still becoming. I like that, becoming. As a mom of 2 young children, she knows firsthand the struggles of juggling the demands of motherhood, career, and life. She started her practice out of a desire to put moms at the center of the conversation. Yes, 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 with an emphasis on shifting the narrative on modern motherhood to one that allows space for mamas to grow, heal, and take care of themselves at all stages of their journey. Her work on, we worked on this before we started recording, but Matrescence. Y'all have to remember I'm from the South. And I learned how to read by sight, so I'm not good at phonics. Matrescence. The transition into motherhood invites her clients and spectators to explore and hold space for this common but rarely discussed phase of development, whilst taking a critical look at the unjust systems and power structures impacting motherhood and creating necessary shifts toward liberation. I love it. I love it. I love it. Great bio. I love reading those bios. They're so great. And I hope that when you hear it back, you be like, yeah, right.
That's you. You did that.
But the mantra of this podcast is motherhood is not the graveyard of dreams. And so in talking about motherhood in a liberatory way, I really want to give mothers tools to really, really, really live that out. So today, I'm excited that you're here to talk to us about the transition into motherhood and to also speak to us about unlearning motherhood. The person who coined the phrase, her name is Dana Raphael. And this is interesting. One of the things that she often said in her writings was, in some cultures, we say a woman has given birth, but here we say a child is born.
Yeah.
And that shifts the focus from the birth person to the child. And then we become obsessed with the child's response to the world and the experience that they're having in the world. And we lose sight of the experience that we're having in the world, which has a much greater impact on the child. If you think about it, we just had an episode with Damari Dickinson who talked about conscious parenting is not about the child, it's about you and your healing and how you're responding to the child. And also, that's one of the reasons this podcast is focused on the mother and not on the children, but the actual experience that we're having. So having you here and your work is like completely in alignment with our intention and what we hope to give moms.
Yes.
So we're going to get started with our traditional question, which is, where were you 10 years ago in your motherhood journey, your business journey, your platform journey, and did you think you would be where you are right now?
Whew, okay. So, hey, y'all. Thanks for this great introduction. Love it. Love it.
Hey, Steph.
And 10 years ago, I was not yet a mother, but I was definitely thinking about it. Newly-ish wed, enjoying that and having fun together. I think thinking about kids, but not there yet. Fully in corporate. I think at that point, I was selling Stella and Dot jewelry.
Listen, I still got some of that stuff around. It's not the same color as it was when I bought it, but it's here.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine you doing that. It's so hard for me to imagine you doing that. Yeah. You do have a big personality, but it's hard for me to imagine you as like a salesperson.
Oh, it's funny because my whole background is in sales. I'm not a salesy salesperson. I'm a relationship,
Yeah, I can see
let
that.
me solve whatever the problem is and work through it together. And that way I am very salesy. So I was doing that. And then I'm thinking blogging. I used to be a hair blogger, y'all.
I
I can see that.
Let's just go through the whole journey. You know what I'm saying? Because, if we were to list all the shit we did on the way to... Oh, God. This almost feels like an unfair question now that we're going back. Many of us have done like... Oh, Lord. Throw in a little UPS at some point, might be a little bartending, you know what I'm saying?
Lord. Might be a little P-Valley situation. You'll know what that is when you watch it. Who knows? Who knows?
We don't judge.
We don't judge. Come a long way. That's it.
10 years is a long time. I'm thinking this question. Maybe we should do 5. You know what I'm saying? We all have to figure out our, and most of us and people we provide on here, we don't have straight paths. So, it's going to be a couple of stops.
Yeah. Yeah.
But did I think I was going to be doing what I was doing now? Probably not in the same sense. No, but I was drawn to mothers even before becoming a mom, working briefly with this company called Sacred Pregnancy, doing like their newsletter, talking about how to take care of yourself, like what herbs to use, all of that stuff. Like I was just kind of like dipping my toe into that. I hadn't done like life coach training. I had to transition into that. So that was something that was always a goal of mine from like very early on, before like coaching became like the thing that it is now. But I was still very much in the, I don't know, female empowerment space, like the disillusions of that. That's a whole nother episode. But
I was just thinking that, Crystal, I was sending you the eyes, but okay.
Yeah, so I think I wanted to empower women, but definitely not in the way that I'm working now, for sure.
I think it's really interesting that you were interested in working with mothers before you were a mother, because our culture kind of makes it where very few people are interested in motherhood, parenting, until it happens to them. And I also think it's interesting that you always wanted to be a life coach.
Always. When I was in high school, my friends' moms would be like, Steffi.
Your friend, they would come to you for advice?
What? Yeah.
Wow.
But I did a chart reading recently, so because I want to get more acclimated with my chart, and that's something she confirmed, like working like in community and like helping people see things, like that's always been there. So
yeah. Oh, I love that.
Okay, so you're here to talk to us about matrescence.
That's it.
Right?
That's
it.
Matrescence.
I said matrescence.
Okay.
I think either one is fine.
But I think you can get away with it because you have like a little bit of your Haitian accent. And so it's like really cute. And, people like that. But when you're in the South, it's just like, well, she don't know how to talk. She can't pronounce words. So like, I kind of have to say mattress. So can you talk to us about why you think it's so important that we have a conversation about this?
And can we define matrescence?
Yeah, so matrescence is the process of becoming a mother, and it is a developmental process similar to adolescence. And which there are different domains involved. So a lot of times when we talk about motherhood, we think only about the physical aspects of pregnancy and raising children. And then we've also more recently started talking about the psychological aspects. So hormone imbalances, PMADs, etc. Those are just some things. But the process itself involves like multiple areas of your life, including socio-political, economical, spiritual. So there are different aspects of your life that are all being transformed through matrescence. And I think it's important to understand that this exists as a thing, right? Because if you have teenagers or if you have tweens that are coming of age, even though you may not understand everything that they're going through, you know that adolescence is something. It's a process of becoming, and that they need extra support, maybe extra grace, etc.
Right. Just knowing that makes you think, oh, give them grace.
Give them grace, right? Where for moms, the thought is, You have a baby, you have 6 or 8 weeks, depending on how you birth. And then that's it. Like you go off. And then if you want to be a little more, oh, well, we have the 4th trimester, which when I first had my child, I'm like, oh, great. The 4th trimester. They were just starting to talk about that. But we all know, like, well, after 3 months, you still were kind of out of sorts. You were trying to, you had to figure a whole lot of shit out. So it can't just be that. And that's where I kind of landed on wanting to support mothers. Funny stories. I was working with moms for 2 years, like kind of going with my experience and just holding the space for what the person in front of me was experiencing, right? Before I knew the term matrescence. And when I was doing an event, like this was in November 2019, and I kept getting these requests on Facebook from students at Columbia that were taking a matrescence course. And I was like, what the fuck is a matrescence? So I was like, and when I tell you like that mind blown emoji, that was me. Thing that I was feeling is, okay, I became a mother and I had great birth experience. Like I had home birth. I was supported by a Black midwife.
Because then they leave. And there's still the whole process, that process you're talking about.
And it was, for me, like the identity shift that I was experiencing, particularly after having my second child.
Can we just pause at how I love my baby, but that second one and on just hits different.
And on.
When you say and on, that's for you, Nikita.
I received it. I received it.
And on and on.
And on and on. All of that.
Well, I would say like our daughter came to live with us 2 weeks after we got married. She's my stepdaughter. And then I had a baby. Then our son came to live with us. And then I had another baby. So
when you layer it like that, bitch, you know, I lived through it with you. When you layer it like that, I didn't. It was like birth. Child come.
It just really hits different.
So there's a lot there, right? So when you think of matrescence, if you go through the research, there is no confirmation of where it ends. It's not like, oh, you go through this and after 6 months it's over.
I'm gonna need an end date. I'm gonna need some finality to this thing.
But here's the thing. Here's why, though. Because I know there's no end to motherhood. But I feel like what you're telling me is there's no end to the transitioning. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, wait a minute. I gotta grieve for a second.
Because you see what's coming.
My tummy hurts.
It looks different at different stages. And I like to tell people that. So most of the people I've worked with are mothers of young children. So 5 and under, right? And I do think that's important to set the foundation of who you are as a mother, how you walk through this early phase and define yourself and don't get lost. Because when you get lost in that, it can be hard to climb out of, right? But I've also worked, my actually very first client, I wasn't doing motherhood work at this time, but she came to me for one thing, but it was during the transition of her child, like senior year of high school. And that was a lot of our conversation.
Come back, Crystal. Come on back.
Wait, she might have a prescription for this. She might have a prescription. Just come on back in. There might be a prescription.
This is not how I thought this was going to go. This is
it's
totally...
That beautiful ground.
I just thought...
Thea told us to just ride.
I did. I said ride it. I remember I said that could be hard. Anybody else?
Yes.
Look at the Keisha. Because you just signed a new contract a couple years
ago. I keep re-signing. I don't understand what's happening. Why I keep
signing that contract.
Resetting this timeline. Yeah.
So matrescence starts the process of how you're feeling, mental, spiritual, emotional, all of that restarts with every child. And it's not just limited to biological children, Crystal. So when you mention Thea, right? So when you mention your bonus child came to live with y'all, like that's a matrescence process because now you are mothering that child, interwoven into like what's happening with you. Like there are feelings and emotions.
Yes.
All the things that are happening are very real.
That is true. Yeah. They are real. Real than a month.
This is thick.
Are we still on question number 1?
Girl, I think this is like 2. I think this is 2, bitch.
Okay. So
God damn.
So I
Oh, you know what? I got tequila.
I need you to come back
I
on
just
screen with the
remembered.
Are
tequila.
you
Come on
going
back.
to get a drink?
Hold on, y'all. Don't worry, fam. Y'all handle this. I got you. I'm just gonna put a dab of Casamigo, just a dab.
Just a dab.
Scotch.
A dab. Okay.
A scotch.
So, and I think mothers have talked about this, but just not openly. But I'm seeing it more and more. Mothers talk about not enjoying motherhood. I'll say that I had this idea of what pregnancy was going to be like for me. And that shit was grimy as fuck. I'm just going to be real. Like, when I got hemorrhoids, I was like, fuck this. I'm completely over this shit.
Yeah.
It's nothing like I'm seeing people go through it. Like, I thought I was going to be fly. I thought I was going to take like the pictures. Rashad and I did this molding. I wish I could see it. It's like totally lopsided. Like, none of my shit. It was just grimy. I constantly got rashes. I was sick the whole time. So when our daughter came to live with us, I felt very connected to her. I tell people that my daughter, I believe she's one of my soulmates. And when I gave birth to my son, I was obsessed with him in terms of like something had come out of me. But if I'm honest, the connection was really difficult for me. And it wasn't because I was going through postpartum or anything like that. I had made a lot of life transitions as well. And so I felt like, am I crazy? Like, I thought my mother instinct would instantly kicking in. And it's kicking in with this 11-year-old, which is also my sweet spot in parenting. Middle school is like my sweet spot in parenting. Like, it's kicking in with this 11-year-old who's not my biological child, but it's not kicking in with my biological child. And
gender played a part.
And gender. And I really did not begin to fully enjoy motherhood until 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And when I say like motherhood is not the graveyard of dreams, like I had dug myself a grave and had basically buried myself in motherhood and wasn't enjoying it. And when I began to realize this can't be it, this just can't be it, is when I began to really figure out what is the joy metric in this experience. And it was a process getting there. And I can say like 3, maybe 4 years ago was when it really kicked like, oh, I like this. And I feel a lot of guilt about that because it took, you know, my son is 13 and it took that time. And so I do feel a lot of guilt about that. But this is making me feel like I wasn't crazy, like I was really, really going through something. And I just didn't have the language. And the world was telling me how this experience was supposed to be. And it wasn't feeling that way.
I want to also say that I think it's natural and okay for us to enjoy some parts of it more than others, some elements of it more than others. We sometimes do this very general thing. You either like motherhood or you don't. And it's like, no, there are aspects of it I consistently like, and there are aspects of it I consistently don't like. And there are seasons of it that I like and cycles of it that I like. So I think allowing it to be nuanced is also super important. I started my motherhood journey at 22.
Your brain's not even fully developed.
Nothing's fully developed, you know? And so, you know, a lot of where I'm now 20 years later and where my girls are now, the conversations are so different. My awareness is so different. My understanding of things is so different. But I'm working on giving myself more and more permission to say, not only were there different cycles and phases that I enjoy more than others, there are different things that are associated with motherhood. Like some of the domestic shit, I don't really like to fuck with. One of the happiest times in my motherhood was when they would be with their dad one week, I would have a week. So there was like balance for me. And then also
pause for that. I remember that. Like, I remember when y'all went through the custody and I was like, oh, bitch, you got the win-win.
And I thought that would be really hard for me, but it actually gave me the opportunity and the space to like find myself and balance myself. And I hired someone to clean the house because I didn't want to clean up after people. That is not something I enjoy. And after years of cooking meals, I also have lost a lot of the joy for that. But I've given myself that grace. And also the fact that other outside elements impact how you feel about your motherhood. The partnership you're having with the person helping you parent, the money that's coming in, the school you're interacting with. So it's hard to say how you feel about your motherhood when there's all these other pieces that are influencing how you get to experience your motherhood. I really see this a lot in mental health, where when people first come to therapy, the first thing they will talk about their childhood and what their parents didn't do. And somebody on Twitter was like, we cannot separate oppression and the fact that our parents were not able to pass on generational wealth from how they had to parent, right? Like if you had to work that hard and navigate all those things and still come home and be compassionate, I can give way more when I ain't worried about money. I can be so much more available when I'm not thinking about certain things. And so I think it's really nuanced, and we have to give ourselves permission for it to be multifaceted and our joy in it to be in flux. You know, it may not be one thing.
Yeah, that's good. I really appreciate that, because I do worry about, like, did I do any damage? And I mean, I'm sure that
I told my kids, I'm gonna pay for your first 6 sessions. And I covered that.
Right.
And I recommend that to any parent as a therapist. Let them go in, talk shit about you. The therapist is already prepared for that. I want y'all to know this Casamigos. I mean, if they ever want to sponsor us, it took the edge off of what Stefa was talking about. If anybody is listening, I'm not encouraging drinking, but I am encouraging a sponsorship.
I'm willing.
No judgment, but I would like to say it is morning where Thea is, and she is enjoying
that. That sounds like
it's not judgment.
That does. It's 11:35. It is.
I'm
barely
impressed.
Morning.
You're impressed.
Are you impressed?
I am.
It took this conversation, though, because, you know, I am a tea drinker, y'all. It took this conversation to help me reach around Casamigos.
I will say, thank God that we were around family. My kids would go to my husband's parents' house, my in-laws, who we had a great relationship, who completely respected all of our parenting choices. They would go there every weekend. That was great. We would have date nights. My mom would take the kids like once a week. And so had it not been for those things, I don't know. I know that there are people who go through that transition without that. And I have so much compassion for it, because I was absolutely the Keisha military mom. And you were moving a lot. So you didn't even have like a solid place. Like I had a solid place.
I am encouraged by the idea of matrescence, because it is about a becoming. That lack of finality, the lack of, you never really reach the end of it, is problematic. That scares me. Okay, that's why we need tequila.
To revisit that.
I mean, the research is still being done, so, you know.
But if I look at it from the other side of, it's a constantly growing, developing, becoming, that for me removes the necessity to get it right and do it perfect and have it all figured out, because I am still growing and becoming a mother. And there'll be a lot of different looks. Lots of parents of adults say, you know, I get these calls like, what I'm going to say to these people? I don't have the money for the bill. What do I say? Right? We're talking about that with Tamar. That you just shift the way that you show up for those children of yours, but you're still learning, because you've never done that before until it happens, right?
Right.
I'm okay with that.
Now, I think that's when I felt a deep shift, is parenting an adult child. I was thrown back. I was on my heels trying to figure out what is this shift and how to navigate this, and feeling like I didn't know anything. So I can get that it's ongoing. And that was a very difficult transition for me. Very hard.
That also goes to you. What do you view your role as a mother to be? Is it to get it perfect and tell your kid everything and fix it? Or is it to be a guide that's walking alongside them through most of these processes, right? So yeah, there are times where you do need to tell them and show them, but there are times you mostly have to just kind of let them figure things out. Because if not, your identity gets tied into that version of mothering. Of like, I'm the fixer. I'm the one that they need to do this, to do that. And when they're an adult and you can no longer do that, you are shattered, or you become either resentful or just that parent that now your kids don't want to talk to you because they're not letting me be a grown up.
I will drink to that.
I'm gonna need to go see what I can put in my mug over here, because you're not gonna be the only one. Okay.
Or it's the other way. It's the other way around. You've done for them so much, and then when they become an adult, you're surprised they don't have the skill set.
Literally 90% of Haitian men don't have a skill set. Can't do nothing.
She just called out 90% of Haitian men. 90.
What a 10% at?
Isn't your husband Haitian?
Only half Haitian.
Oh. There you go. Woo.
But yeah, he's just Haitian enough. But he grew up like in a much more Americanized household where he could do stuff. But my dad, he does stuff, but he's...
Isn't your father a doctor?
He is. And he knows how to doctor very well. And he doesn't know how to cook and water plants.
Well, there you go. Skill sets in certain areas. I'm going to request that we just go back to that thing I drank on when we get a chance.
I'm going to need a drink before we do that.
For a friend.
What are we going back to?
For a friend or two.
Well, just that piece about, unraveling your identity from being somebody that's so central to what they need and fixing things for them. Sometimes, speaking for a friend.
What's your friend's name?
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I have not gotten their consent.
Don't do it. You do not have my consent. Correct. You do not have consent.
I do not have Nikisha's consent. Thank you, Nikisha. I do not. You know what, Nikisha? I'm gonna pass you this through the spring, bitch. Catch it. Because you a real one. You a real one.
This is awesome.
I got you.
I don't know where this is gonna go. I don't know.
But I want to acknowledge that, just like Nikisha said, learning the language of that, this is an ongoing process, because there's a point of burnout that my friend might have experienced where you feel like, I have supplied all these things. Why aren't they applying them? And you realize it's because you've been the fixer. You've been so central to it that now you have to be patient as you encourage them to do that on their own. But I will say also with this generation, there's a big difference. Thank you. My daughter just brought me carrot cake. There's a big difference because I will say this post-COVID and this current generation, Crystal and I talked about this. Yeah, I'm going to say it.
Just hold on. Thea's theories.
Let me get up in here for this. See what you got on this, Stefa. I might have to pass you the bottle, Stefa, on this one. If you get it right, I'll pass you the bottle too. So we're raising the generation that came after No Child Left Behind, which taught teaching to the test. And so the part about the critical thinking, the problem solving that we used to get is not being taught, because they were taught to learn according to the test. They're trying to reverse some of that. But the issue is they were so focused on creating employees and not entrepreneurs and CEOs that they wanted people who were just compliant. And so now when we ask this generation to critically think about a problem, one, we have not taught that. The whole academic year, we've just said pass the test or do the thing or just follow the instructions because we were training them to be employees. The other part is that we flooded them with mental health knowledge without context. And so now when they can't do it, they're like, it's my anxiety, it's my this, it's my that. And the thing about mental health language, it was never really intended for public consumption. It was never meant to be like a public lexicon. It's not meant to be applied in the way that it's applied. So then when they don't have the bandwidth or the tolerance, because in addition to that, their attention spans have gotten shorter, tech has gotten faster, being able to get what you want faster, patience is shorter, all these things, right? Less human contact, more tech contact have just diminished the capacity to have the bandwidth to tolerate when I can't immediately be gratified in something and I don't have the skill set to process through how I feel about that, process through ways to navigate that. And when I can't, I have a label for it.
Yeah.
There's also this place that Matrescence meets with the times, like what's happening in culture. And then you add COVID, right? So then when we talk about the external factors that influence your journey and whether you can enjoy it, some of this is not even about your relationship. It's about the external changes that are happening socially that impact your ability to feel like, I thought we was on the same page.
And then you're adjusting your parenting to that.
While you're adjusting as well to the same social changes.
That's really interesting because my motherhood started when social media really hit its thing, like with Facebook.
There's a lot of variables there. And I'm wondering if Stefa's seeing that in her practice, because mothers who are mothering right now, it's a whole different...
It's different. I get so many questions that are like, well, is this normal motherhood or is it COVID?
Ooh.
Because people who have had kids in the last 3 years, there are certain things that they're experiencing that's just different, depending on where they were on the spectrum. Most of them were very conservative as far as like not letting their children outside, didn't interact with a lot of other moms, etc. So they didn't have even like the early mom groups that some of us found. Like, we're going to this activity, we're going to this. They didn't do any of that. So it's had an impact on people. And I think it's interesting what you said about critical thinking. If your child hasn't had that, or if you haven't necessarily worked that muscle out, that can be really different in understanding how to approach certain situations. I know for us, we think about that a lot.
Like I was saying, homeschooled children or unschooled children are the ones I'm seeing who have that skill set. Those who went through traditional public education systems or even private education systems did not get that piece.
Yeah.
I know I didn't. I did early childhood in Haiti, so up until 6th grade, and then 6th grade here, 6th grade on in here. And I was always a good student, like the A student. And I think, while that helped me in a lot of situations, but it also, like as an adult, when I wanted to do different things and branch out of like traditional corporate, it caused a lot of self-doubt because I didn't have the answers. And that affected my mothering. It builds perfectionism inside of you. It builds kind of like the fear of getting things wrong. But all of a sudden you were worried about random people's opinions. Like, wait, why do I care about this?
I don't even know about them.
That's how we are ingrained. I know in my motherhood, that has helped me. Like, I don't want my children to be like that.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I put them in the hippiest free thinking school I can find.
Yes. Yeah.
Somebody sent me a picture earlier of my son. They were on the shore. They had shore school. He found a crab.
Oh,
yeah.
And I know that's not the typical first grade experience. People are like, wait, what is he doing? I'm like, I don't know. Every Friday they go to the beach for a couple of hours and they dig. That's their learning.
Hey, Magic Makers, I wanted to jump in here right quick and let you know about our merch of the month, which is our Black Mama Magic card deck. The intention of this 54 card deck is to remind you that you have the power and right to define your motherhood on your own terms without limitations. Let me say that again. You have the power and right to define your motherhood on your own terms without limitations. You can choose a card from the deck whenever you feel the ground shifting beneath your feet, once a month, daily, or once a week. There are 54 cards in the deck, so the cards can actually take you through the year. And y'all know, Dim Black Mamas loves a good playlist, so the deck also comes with a QR code to listen to our Black Healing playlist. You can find your deck at bit.ly/Black Mama Magic Card Deck. Again, that's bit.ly/Black Mama Magic Card Deck, or in the show notes on our website at dimblackmamas.com. That's DEM Black Mamas, MAMAS.com. Now, let's get back to the magic, y'all. Where I got critical thinking skills from.
Being a child of the 80s.
Oh,
we had that.
Latchkeyness.
Crack talk.
Sure did.
How we gonna eat? How we gonna keep these lights on? That's how folks started sharing cable and shit. Creative as fuck.
Crystal, your mom was working third shift. You were like self-sufficient.
Yeah, you had to figure it out.
Some things out. You had to figure some things out.
My mom worked 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. There was dinner there, but it's not like it is in my house. Like, our daughter grew up with an adult always at home. She was never at home alone. And it wasn't because we, didn't want to leave her alone. It was just like the nature of the privilege. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So my husband and I have had conversations where he's like, well, when I was such and such, I was da-da-da. And I'm like, but she didn't grow up like that. So she doesn't have that. So thinking about that, Stefa, and when you say it's ongoing, are you transitioning as your kids are transitioning?
Yeah, I think it's both. Like, you may have a transition of just what's going on in your life, whether it's like personal, business, whatever, that your children aren't having that big of a transition. But a lot of times there are transitional periods as your kids are transitioning, because what it takes to raise an 8-year-old is
Right.
not the
It's
same
different.
as you were doing with the
At
when they
11
were
and
2.
12.
Oh, no. I mean, that's major. That's big thing.
That's when it gets so real.
That's so interesting because I also think about I'll be premenopausal or in menopause when my youngest 2 enter high school. And I never even thought about that. Like that's
and you'll be going through your own.
Yeah.
Yes. And how do you hold space for that?
Ooh.
Well, they're going to high school. I got to take care of the high school. Well, yes. And
these hot
also
flashes,
going
though.
through. Yeah. And hot flashes. And how you're feeling in your body and what's going on. And I think, Thea, earlier you mentioned something about multiple transitions. And that's the part. That's the part where I want people to understand, not that they can stop the transitions, but how did you process that transition that you're going through? Because most of the time when folks come to work with me, it's never like, I had a baby, was a big transition. No, it was like, I have a baby, I moved, this happened, and I'm doing this. I'm like, whoa.
That's so good, Stefa, because that ties into the Black woman, Superwoman trope that we don't know when we doing a lot. Yeah. We will act like that's normal. Crystal, you talked about it. You got married. You had a baby. You had
I moved from California to South Carolina.
From California. All that was happening around that birth.
It wasn't just like a distance transition. It was like I lived in Los Angeles.
Culture, scenery, smells, everything.
Because when you live in Los Angeles, and even more so than New York, when you live in Los Angeles, you don't feel like you're in the United States. You feel like you're in a different country. Like it's like I should have had a passport to come here. This shit is way different, right? When I would come back home time to time, I'd be like, oh, I'm in the United States. But moving back and then getting married and then having a baby and
it's so many transitions. Thinking about that, Steph, I feel like going back to that piece about grace that you were talking about earlier, I think having kids that are in the age where they're trying to figure out what they want to do in the world, who they want to be in the world, they're 19, 17, 15. I'm learning to make way more space for my own humanity. And so, for example, I just went on a trip. Whenever I come back from this trip, I have like a 30-day downer because it's in Egypt and it's freeing and it's liberating for me. And then I come back and I'm coming back to roles and a sense of responsibility and America. And my oldest went to Paris, which was her dream last summer. And so I felt comfortable communicating with her and that she would understand and relate to that sadness. And so stuff that I used to hide from them when they were little, like, mommy's okay, I now am like, I'm not okay. That's why she keeps bringing me stuff, smoothies. She's taking care of me. And I'm learning to say, okay, please. I'm learning to receive that back. And I'm learning that this is now becoming a little bit more symbiotic. And that's a beautiful part of this transition, even though sometimes I feel like the stakes are higher because of their ages and the choices that they can make. I can also deeply receive and be more human and less superhero with them at this point. So I think all we can do, because it is an ongoing crisis, is be present. I feel like there's just always going to be a multitude of things. Let's say we got our dream career outcomes and opportunities right now, right? We would have to hold space for so many elements of that dream if that were to happen right now. And so being present with feeling multiple things at the same time, I can be sad and I can enjoy this and I can be effective at work because I want to be, because I'm enjoying it, not because I have to be. And I can also be in conflict, and all those things can coexist. Is such a practice and presence that I think I really did need parenting to teach me that level of presence, that level of detail.
So what are the particular challenges that you feel like Black mothers face when transitioning to motherhood?
I think Black moms, there's just so much there because expectation of Black women and the things that we carry. The first thing that comes to mind is economically, we're more likely to be at a disadvantage than other moms. So in the sense that we're more likely to be the ones like making more money. So there's a disadvantage there if you're mothering, you're doing that, but you're taking on like financial aspects of having a household and really feeling like you need to hold on to that part and for it to carry the family. So that happens a lot. I think fear, I didn't see it as much in the beginning, but now because we know what we know about Black maternal health and the disparities in healthcare, I think there is fear when people are coming into motherhood. Like, am I going to
die?
Am I going to die? Even if you don't die, like if you get really shitty treatment, that's traumatic. And like, you don't want that to have an imprint on your motherhood and like how you're raising your children.
Oh, that had a tremendous imprint on my motherhood. I wish I would have had some healing immediately, because I do think I had some feelings toward my son because of my pregnancy experience. And I didn't feel like it was his fault, but I felt like those experiences caused a disconnect. I didn't know healing for that was available at the time.
Well, I think the thing about birth is when you are giving birth, like no matter what happens, it does have an implication. If you feel empowered in birth, even if it's a C-section, but you feel like you were able to make some decisions, people listened to you, then you feel that you can bring that same energy to aspects of your mothering. Like you feel like people are going to hear me.
I think that's
people
true.
are going to listen to me. My voice is important. What I need is important. Where if you don't have that, then that becomes really hard. And if you haven't taken the time to like grapple with what the birth story was there healing that was needed? Do you need to forgive yourself? What are some of the things
It hit. Hold on. You need a minute?
Yeah.
Crystal?
Oh my God.
Okay.
I got you.
We got tequila.
You
We got tequila.
You can grab the bottle.
And hugs.
Anytime.
We got tequila, hugs. We got all the
This
things, sunshine.
Is not where I was expecting.
We knew it beforehand. We were like, why are we lighting all this sage and Alfonso?
We did. We started lighting it. We did start lighting it.
This was going to be one of those moments. Yeah, one of those days.
I think that's so real. Like when you said forgive yourself.
Yeah.
I don't think I have forgiven myself.
Yeah.
For what piece?
I do feel like because my birth was traumatic and I was talked out of every decision surrounding birth and then just not preparing my body because I didn't know. I just realized I do feel guilt about that. And then once I began to make that transitioning to mothering him, it was really hard. It was just really hard coming out of that birth. And on top of reimagining yourself. Because again, I was in LA for 8 years and thought my life was going to be one way and it had been another way. And also, I think when you are transitioning into parenting and into motherhood, it's when you begin to think more about how you were parented. It's a deeper understanding of it. I know I began to see my father a lot more clearly. And so also just forgiving myself for not having that compassion for him that I know I'm going to need from my son, because now I could understand, like, maybe he didn't feel a connection. Maybe he thought he would feel a connection and he didn't. There's so much more now that I can understand and that I can see. And just when you said forgiving yourself, that just hit me, because I'm like, oh, wow, that's it. There's things that I have not forgiven myself for around my birth story and around that transition to motherhood.
It's also like there's some colonization in us, and even in that, right? My body didn't show up for me. You and that baby being alive was the showing up. What I'm saying is that capitalism and colonization teaches us to hold on to the most painful aspects of that.
Yeah.
And not to release it to the natural cycle of, and this too belongs. And this too belongs, which is very prominent in African Eastern practices. So as a person who's watched you through those experiences, I'm saying that a lot of the evolution that you've come into, including your own clairvoyance, including your dreaming, including your own spiritual power, I don't know if the universe didn't perfectly orchestrate that and even use the people in those moments who we hated at that time to birth more than just your son, but your gifts and your opportunity to heal and be renewed in a new way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I think that's true. And I think that that's what that self-forgiveness piece brings up for me. Like the possibility of accepting
all that. Yeah.
And I just think that that's a beautiful question to ask someone transitioning into motherhood, because whatever it is, I mean, maybe it's not your birth story, maybe it's another story. What are you bringing forward into this experience as you transition? But that transition is so much about get back to it. Get back to it. This shit click in. This shit click in. And it doesn't
I
always.
think that's another thing with Black moms too. By the time we're mothers, or even if you become a mother, whether you're young or like a little bit older, so much is expected of us.
Yes.
So we think that we have to show up as these super people.
Oh God, yes.
All the time. In all aspects. And I can think of like, okay, now what I'm seeing is the whole snapback, right? I'm supposed to look this way. It's supposed to go perfect this way. And so there's a lot of struggling if maybe they had to stop working. They had a business. I had a client once who, she had a business through pandemic. So this was experiencing multiple things. Pandemic happened, had to close her business, all of these things. Yet she was just wanted to get back.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. How can we sit here? What do you need to learn here before you rush back to whatever the things are? And at the end of that program, she thanked me. She was just like, you know what? I thought I was coming for something, to reconnect with my ambition, but I realized I've had more healing to do.
Don't we all?
Right. That is the gift. Like, can you gift yourself slowing down a little bit?
Can you gift yourself? I like that language. Gift yourself. What can you gift yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much there. The whole getting back to, I think a turning point for me, a healing point for me was when I realized I'm not getting back to anything. Like, what am I expanding into?
Yes.
I'm not giving up myself. I'm expanding. I'm not burying myself. I'm becoming more alive. But it's like, I don't know. It's weird. It's like, we're taught to try to get back to this identity, but we've had this major thing happen.
Right.
So why don't we teach people how to move forward? Well, I mean, that's what you do. You teach more about how to move forward. Well, yeah,
it is. And right. Interesting to me that people still don't have the concept. So like when I'm working with them, like, okay, we got to know how far you're willing to go, because until you unlearn capitalism and in the many ways it seeps into everything that you do, and thinking you have to be productive, thinking you need to only look a certain way. This is the only way you'll be accepted, etc. Literally being everything at home. And even when I'm like, well, what about your husband? What about your partner? Like, well, did you talk to them about that? Oh no, feeling like you.
I don't want to burden.
You don't want to burden, but you're burdening yourself, sis. You're burdening yourself over everything. But I have so many people that I've talked to. And I'm like, if you are going to do this work, like we're going to have to shift something.
Decolonize it. Yeah.
Because when I tell people, well, there are systems that are affecting the way, they're like, what system?
Yeah. And we also come from a legacy where we're like, well, grandma did this and great grandma did this and Harriet Tubman did this. And Sojourner Truth did this. And it's like, and I appreciate each and every single one. Thank you. I bring flowers to the altar. I put out food for the ancestors. And I don't think any of them were like, let's break our back with this shit so that in 10 generations, they can be breaking their backs too.
Right. And I talk about that all the time.
Nobody does that. Nobody says, let me just go through hell so that in 10 generations, they can go through hell too. I just don't think that's even logical.
Just because your mama did it, what if she didn't have a choice? She didn't know any better. And one thing about motherhood too, I think Crystal and maybe Thea, you mentioned like giving grace, like giving grace to your parent, understanding like what your parents went through, or understanding some of that was due to being disadvantaged, due to colonization, that they didn't have choices. And the vision, how you get free, you can make different choices. And what a blessing that is. You don't have to hold on to being Superwoman, to doing everything.
And you can retire some of that. Like we can hang grandma's jersey and be like, she did that. Let me hang that jersey in the living room. You know what I'm saying? But I ain't cooking 8 meals a day. We have to question with love and curiosity and not judgment what we were taught, not because it's right or wrong, but is it still effective? Is it still culturally, socially needed? relevant. If not, retire it and let it evolve. I was with some students the other day talking about vulnerability. And it was different age groups on this call. There was some younger folks and there were some elders in the space. And they were like, we're not vulnerable because people might use it against us. And that sounds like some old school, like pass on. So I told them, I said, instead of saying what your grandmama and grandmama taught you about not being vulnerable, what about curating your space so that the only people you are around are people you can be vulnerable with? We're talking about the 60s. It was Black people that sold us out in some of these civil rights episodes and moments. It was our people who did that to us. And I get it. Currently, though, you have choices about who will be around you. You can decide.
That's a word.
I only want emotionally intelligent, emotionally mature, emotionally capable people around me. And if they're not in my family, that's okay.
Yeah. The other thing is that came to mind, asking for help. People don't want to ask for help because they're like, oh, well, they're going to turn it on me. So it's a sign of weakness. It's very deep. Like, who can support you? I always ask folks, who can support you with this?
There's a post on Facebook about au pairs, and it's a woman of color, and she talks about how the au pair has changed her life or whatever. Like you said, Thea, we live in a new day where a lot of people don't live near their family anymore. When I was growing up, we went 3 months out of the year, like a solid 3 months, and stayed with my dad's sister and husband and traveled. They took us everywhere in the summertime. My grandma, my aunts picked me up from cheerleading practice. So there was a bunch of people contributing to my rearing. So my mom wasn't doing all the picking up, all the feeding, all of that. She wasn't. There was a support system, right? But now that we have moved further away from our parents, that support system isn't necessarily there. And so people are hiring other people. But if you could have seen this post, and most of the commenters, because it was a Black woman who was posting, were Black women judging this Black woman and saying things like, oh, you need to raise your own kids. It's no way I would have somebody come into my house around my husband. If that person is doing the cooking and cleaning and being with your kids, what are you doing? There was also another post where this woman, she had just had a baby. The baby wasn't even a month old. And she posted on Instagram about how her night doula came in. Night nurse came in.
I know.
So like at 6 o'clock, she was handing that baby over. Oh, she was only being awakened to feed the baby because she was breastfeeding, which she felt like she was much better at because she was more relaxed. But at 6 o'clock, she was running a bath. She's putting on her pajamas. Like she went through her whole routine after her night nurse come.
Folks was mad. Folks was big mad.
They were mad.
Real
bad.
big
mad.
Big mad.
I'm going to tell you why the folks is really mad. Y'all want to know?
Can you tell us, Thea?
Do the people want to know?
I think the people want to know. I think the people want to know.
Because you didn't even know there was a night nurse or an au pair. You didn't even know that was available. And you mad because whoever, I'm about to get real personal, whoever you didn't decide to be up in your situation with is all in your credit and finances. Therefore, the option to have these services for you is not quite available. And so you big mad because you did not cultivate the kind of life that would allow you to tap into these kind of services or the kind of freedom or sovereignty that would allow you to be like, bitch, you coming in on my post. But I'm going to do it for whoever those sisters are and say, that sounds lovely, bitch.
Yeah.
And if I could recommend a lavender chamomile bath, I would like to offer that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's just jealousy.
Yeah.
That's nothing but
it's jealousy, but it's also this idea passed down or this myth passed down that number one, we can do it all. And number two, that we are solely responsible, like only we can contribute to our homes. Only we can contribute to
That's not
our
even
children.
African-centered.
I would like to confess.
Yes. I saw you do this, so I said something good.
It was tough. Okay.
Because you've been awfully quiet. Make a confession. It's okay, my child.
This is my confession.
As a lactation consultant, there were some concerning things that occurred in the video with the night doula. There were concerns about lack of closeness between mother and baby, her being able to be responsive to baby's needs because baby was on a whole other floor with a whole other human. Even the night doula sat the baby down to wash the dishes, wash the, bottles, to do all the things. So baby was not necessarily having that constant closeness with the parent that they could have and should have had. So that's from the baby's perspective. From mama's perspective, though, for sure, mama was getting well rested, getting her needs met. So it's a little struggle for me to sit in the place of
But
not.
Nikisha, that's not what the comments were about.
Well, I also just want to say, what if that baby liked a little variety? Who's speaking on behalf of the baby? Is there an attorney here to represent the baby? Because what if baby was like, oh, this bitch smell like raspberry. That other one smell like butter, and I need a little break. I mean, I totally get what you're saying. And I also think there may be room for multiple ways for these things to be happening, and multiple ways for even the baby to be able to develop multiple relationships of closeness.
This is why I'm confessing, because I see now where there was a lot more room for me to offer grace on all sides.
But Nikisha, that's not what the comments were saying. What nobody worried about from a breastfeeding perspective. Girl, nobody said nothing about breastfeeding.
They were just judging her.
It was complete judgment, because that's even offering some insight. Like, okay, you may want to think about this. Nobody was
and that can be worked out between the night doula and the mother.
But that's the difference between like a calling in, right? Are you attacking somebody, or are you calling them in and being like, I love what you're doing there. However, how is that working for the baby? Is your milk production fine? Are you finding like the closeness is needed? That's how you call somebody in and have them think about that if they haven't already, rather than just attacking them. Because that's what happened on the internet, right? People attack people. Internet is kind of like macroscopic looking on real life, because that was probably what would happen in a real life situation if her over there across the street had that, and y'all are out here hating because you don't have that.
I don't even think one person contributing to the child's life is American, because white people went to a number of different countries to
people raise their kids,
to bring people into this country to raise their children. So the idea that America pushes, that 2.5 children, 2-parent home, all of that, is a myth, because that's not the history of any family in America. That's not the history of white family. That's not the history of Black family either. So this whole idea that you are the sole provider for your children on every single level is completely a myth of motherhood. That's completely a myth.
I would also say, like, there's Black people who have family members that move in. Latino families will have family that lives with you. How is that different than having this person come in and assist if you're separated from family? If you don't have family there, you have to create formal resources. That means you have to pay for them. But the reality is we do this. I don't understand why people are over dramatizing it. I just answered my own question. The reason they were judging it is because it alleviated her suffering. And we cannot imagine Black motherhood absent suffering, because that is a part of the rite of passage of being a Black mother. And because it alleviated her suffering, which increased her joy, increased her pleasure, and I'm sure increased her presence with that baby during the day and during the times that she was with that baby, is because she should have been suffering. You should suffer through it. That's how you learn to be a mother. That is not how you have to learn to be, unless you're being a mother who's learning how to teach your children how to suffer. But if you're a mother that teaches your children from jump to prioritize their needs, that they are sovereign and important, then this shit sounds like its own track.
I suffer, so you should suffer too.
That's always it. That was it with R. Kelly.
Ooh.
Every time we see Black women come out like that, it's I suffered and you should have to suffer too. And I love you and respectfully tell you to mind your own fucking business.
And this was 2 different posts. So like when I saw it on the first post with the au pair, I was like, oh my God. Like, and then there was like a Black au pair on there, and she was like, well, I was an au pair. I wasn't interested in stealing someone's husband.
And then it's also like, what's wrong with the niggas y'all picking? I don't kick the husband out and keep the au pair. So
that's it. That's the point.
I'm not ready for this conversation, y'all.
That's it.
Listen.
If that is your worry, your problem is not au pair.
I have a future suggestion for a podcast. What is the role of fathers? Like, for real. Because it boggles my mind when my husband does some regular parenting shit.
Oh, don't get me started.
And people are like, oh my God, you're so lucky.
Oh my God, you're so present. You're so lucky. Here's the thing. If that dad had posted that he got help in his fatherhood and they'd be like, that's so good because we want you to stay in the home. This is the 80s crack epidemic again, though, y'all. I swear to God.
Thea's theories.
Y'all got so scared about a black man dying of crack or going to jail. Y'all got so scared about it, you began to just really baby folks around here and make like really mediocre shit like, oh my God, he comes home. Where else he gonna go? Like, what do you mean he came home? Like, really? So if your conversation around her getting help is about her man cheating, you is so low vibrational. You is so low vibrational. I think I got my black mama say, y'all gave me some strength.
Okay. What do you feel like the one thing is that Black mothers can immediately decide to unlearn or help them transition into their motherhood in a way that's rooted in liberation? Like, because I think that a lot of Black mothers are stuck. And that stuckness is hyper focused on the children, you know? So even if your child is 9, like mine was, I don't think a lot of Black mothers has fully transitioned from giving birth to who am I now?
Yeah. I think it goes back to some of the things that we've covered. It's like unlearning that you have to be the superhero, that you have to wear this cape all the time, and learning yourself. Like, what is it that you need at this moment? Like, what would feel good to you? Because I look at my mom now, and my brothers are 42 years later. She hasn't learned to like tap into like what makes her happy.
Oh, wow.
Like taking time for that. And I think it's important to have those moments because it grounds you in your humanness. And it's great to do it when your children are around because they can see that you're human too. So you're not perfect. You're not a superhero. Sometimes you're late. Maybe a lot of times you're late. Sometimes you forget. Sometimes you're sad. I think that's part of like the lessons that you can teach them because they can be human with you too. Then they don't have to be scared. I can tell my mama because my mom was perfect and she expects me to be perfect. Like, no, we're all here being human.
That's it.
This was so good. I mean, it drove me to drink, but it was good. You know what I learned from you today, too, Stefa, is we're afraid to let motherhood change us because we're thinking of it through the colonized capitalist way. But if we think of it in the purest sense of what it's here to do, it is here to change us. It is here to expand us towards a greater version of who we are and deeper relationships. So we do not have to be afraid of motherhood changes. We need to accept that it does change us and that we can be a part of shaping and accepting and what's the word I want to say? Like projecting where that change can go, you know?
So Stefa, where can the people reach you?
Unlearning_motherhood.
And that's where people can find you.
They can find me on Instagram.
Thank you so much, Stefa.
We love you, Stefa. Thanks for joining us again. Our final segment, Black Mama Say, is where we put our own twist on sayings from Black mamas. This Black Mama Say is not something we say to our children, although we may think it, but it's definitely something we say to each other when we are stunned, shocked, or feel folks are testing us or taking us for granted. This episode's Black Mama Say is, oh, bitch, or oh, really, bitch?
Oh, Nikisha, that was good. That was good, Nikisha.
That was good. I'm going first.
Okay, but let me just say, I like this because it can also be a warning. Like, prepare yourself for what I'm about to say. Okay, go Thea. Go Thea.
So, you know, I was gone for a couple of weeks abroad. So I wasn't driving and I came back to Los Angeles, California, and I saw gas prices as high as $7-something. And I was like, oh, really, bitch?
Really?
I was literally just in the Middle East. I have no idea what the fuck this is about.
You were in Africa.
Listen, by the time I was looking at their TV, I was like, no, this shit is Middle East. I just have to. I never seen so many Saudi Arabian. I was like, oh, this shit is like Arab. So my whole attitude towards inflation on cheese, which, you know, I know we're not supposed to be eating a lot of that anyway, but goddamn avocado. I already was having trouble with that when I came back from Panama and saw avocado the size of my head for 25 cents. And I came back in and saw one the size of my fucking thumb. The other day, I cut a lemon from Trader Joe's that had literally no juice. The bitch How did it get squeezed?
Just dry as a bone. I've had that happen.
Girl, it looked like it had been pre-squeezed and glued back together or some shit. I ain't never seen no shit like that. It scared me. It scared me. Oh, really, bitch? You saw me doing it?
Oh, gosh.
So my response to the rising cost of just fucking living in this country is, oh, really, bitch? Really?
I just also want to say gas prices in South Carolina are $3.27. Now, we were the first to secede from the union, but, life is about choices.
Life is about choices.
I just came up with this on the fly. I would just like to say to the elections, please, y'all, please.
I didn't want to talk about it.
Don't make me say, oh, really, bitch. Don't make me do it.
Oh, God.
Don't make me do it, y'all. Get out there and do what you need to do so you do not see us up in here cutting up.
Why this whole episode has made my tummy hurt?
We will be cutting up like we did in our very first episode. Y'all know we were angry.
Oh, God, look at my shoulders.
I don't even know if I have the energy to cut up. I'm down to my vulnerability.
I will say, oh, really, bitch? Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's all. All right. Because I have folks showing up asking me if I'm done yet. Let me move this along. Follow us on Instagram at Dim Black Mamas Podcast. And if you don't want to miss a minute of the magic, stay up to date with everything we're conjuring up by signing up for our newsletter, The Mothership, which drops in your box twice a month-ish.
And don't forget to check out our website, www.dimblackmamas.com. You can also send us your thoughts about the show, show us some love, and ask us some questions at magic@dimblackmamas.com.
And be sure to listen to our sister podcast, Shaping the Shift. All right.
This was good. This was a juicy show.
Yeah, it was a great show. And that's all we got, Black people. We ain't got no more. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. We love y'all.
Namaste.